Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. I am very excited about today's offering. Michel Fiffe's Creating COPRA, the definitive do-it-yourself guide to making and self-publishing comic books. Self-published, of course, by Michel Fiffe of COPRA fame, the amazing Suicide Squad inspired superhero comic book, self-published by Michel Fiffe. If anyone would know the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, the successes and the failures, the nuts and bolts of self-publishing, how to do it, why to do it, and if and whether or not to do it at all. You will be inspired by this book as I was. I'm very excited to share it with you. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and let's get right into it. This great cover, this striking image, is the perfect example of the genius of Michel Fiffe. He is very much like an artist. He is very like graphic. He's very like pop art. He's very exciting, electrifying, invigorating. But as you will discover if you will read his process as laid out in here, a lot of his style and aesthetic comes about through necessity, which is very interesting because it reminds me of an interview with John Romita Jr., who said his style was largely influenced by what he felt he could do consistently on a monthly basis. And that is what he gave. And, you know, Romita Jr. is arguably one of the best comic book artists of our generation, our time, a pure classic, one of the greatest storytellers, and, you know, a great example. So I think sometimes coming up with the by hook or by crook style mother of necessity leads to brilliance and genius. You know, you see a lot of the shorthand in Michel Fiffe's art that I just think comes together so well. Anyway, he details, you know, very much a step-by-step guide. Apparently this is, I saw him put out the pre-order for this. I follow him on socials, Instagram and Facebook, and I'm have a bid in to interview him, and I hope that happens because he is somebody I've always wanted to talk to as an artist, and especially after reading this epic book. It is so good. I have a million more questions and a lot more inspiration to pick your brain, so hopefully that happens at some point. But anyway, this is just so good. It's a culmination of articles and essays apparently put out on Patreon for, you know, it's great content to have. Like, that is, if you're a one-man show like Michel Fiffe clearly is, it's a great thing to have to, you know, help support your business of you further, you know, and give something to your fans that they want, you know, especially popularized by cartoonist kayfabe and getting people into self-publishing and indie publishing and the nuts and bolts of it and the behind the scenes and the whys and the wherefore. I mean, I definitely think you can credit cartoonist kayfabe for a lot of that. I've always, you know, Michel Fiffe talks about discovering the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way VHS tape. You know, I had the book, and but I find it interesting that that was like his find, and being transfixed to the television screen and his dad questioning like why he wasn't drawing, and he was just like absorbing every minutia of everything he could and like how to make a comic book. And you know, it's funny because his obsession echoes a lot of young comic book artists, and I think you can go in a lot of different directions. You know, I self-published my own comic book at age 12. I was just basically drawing on, you know, white sketchbooks and paper and, you know, pen and ink and ballpoint pen and just like getting it printed at the local printer. And it had this like horrible spiral binding and selling like, you know, 4 copies at my local comic book shop. But you know, that is like, I can relate to the want and the desire to make your own comic book. And it is taking it further by wanting to like be involved in the printing, and he's very into the paper stock. And you know, it talks about, but it's not just that, you know what I mean? It's, he talks about how to draw the story, how to write the plot, how to how, and I should say, and I feel it's you know, conveyed in such a way. As much as I think this will be a classic companion to books like How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, and we so desperately need something like this, and I'm so glad he did something like this. It is proof in the very essence of the art form and art itself is that there's really no right or wrong way to do something. There's no set in stone way to do anything. This is one vision. This is how he did it. It's not only a how-to, but it's very much a cautionary tale. It talks about the pluses and minuses of aligning with publishers, the benefits, the detriments, you know, going back and forth from self-publishing to aligning himself with smaller publishers. I forget the name, but it's in here. And then ultimately Image Comics, who he still has somewhat of a relationship with today. But this is so great, you know what I mean? It's like he has enough of a following. I hope this is a huge hit. I would love to see this get into as many people's hands as possible, as many people that want it. Like I said, like it is a cautionary tale in a lot of ways. Like, is inspired, and it's making me want to create comics a lot. It's definitely scaring me away from like the aspects, like, you know, like getting a deal with Image is such a slippery slope, and this is not the first time I've heard of it. You know, I know of, you know, like Gary Carlson and Big Bang, and you know, it's like, unless it's selling well enough, you know, it's like sometimes you can't afford things like color, or you're responsible for paying them back for the printing, and sometimes it does not work out in your favor and you wind up owing them money. So unless you have a really big hit, sometimes you are just kind of better off doing everything all on your own. And it feels like Michel Fiffe has found a great balance of that, and doing like certain singular issues on his own, and then also doing you know, like letting Image handle the foreign distribution, licensing, and the online, like, you know, the digital distribution. I think is smart, you know what I mean? Covering all your bases. It is hard being a one-man show. It is so hard. And, you know, he talks about the sacrifice you make, like we said, the coming up with a style that is allows for that. And, you know, he's not working digitally. Apparently he does touches up, but it's like, in here he's saying like a rare glimpse into some layouts. Like, you know, he doesn't have a ton of process shots because he's so busy doing everything. He doesn't have the time to stop and document it all as he goes along. So it's nice to see some of this has been preserved, because it's always interesting to see inside the brain of a creative person, especially when they do something all on their own, and to see how they get from point A to point B. And he is so rare, you know. I love digital comic books. My own Big Bang is largely digital. There is, you know, a little bit of physical work came, you know, in existence for that, and I wish there was more, because it is definitely like a valid art form that should be in museums, you know what I mean? So Michel Fiffe apparently draws on boards. He letters on the boards. And the thing that killed me the most is like he is coloring on the boards and like doing in like colored pencils, and to great effect. They're beautiful, but on one hand I feel like it's a mistake. He even talks about it himself, like he's kind of shooting himself in the foot as far as recolored or remastered versions. But then again, at the same time, it's creating a single piece of art that exists forever, and it is what it is. It's like, you know, and then he said it compels him to like want to try to get it right. So I don't know, you know, he does like little effects like color holds and things like that in post and Photoshop, and can clear up like little mistakes. And But, you know, he talks about the penciling and, you know, this is what I'm saying, how, like, this is one man's vision, one man's technique. You know what I mean? This is not the definitive, like, you should need to make your comic book like that. And that's what I love about art and subjectivity. And, you know, like I said, this is like such a great, like, right next to How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, because that's so much more broader and generic and basic. You know what I mean? This is definitely like a more like definitive example of how to literally make a comic book, you know. Very interesting to note, you know, very, very loose, like almost non-existent pencils. He thinks it's a huge waste of time because why noodle away on pencils when you're gonna be doing the inking anyway? You know, there's an argument for either or, you know what I mean? You know, there was a time on Alpha Flight when John Byrne was inking his own work, and he was also penciling Fantastic Four and possibly inking it as well, and he said that he was basically penciling in inks, and a lot of people decry it and say it was like uninspired and kind of lazy in a lot of respects, and you know, but I enjoyed that art a lot. I like the looseness and the expression. That's an argument for it as well. You know, like, you do lose something of the spontaneity when you're like keep overworking something, you know what I mean? I think nothing, like for me, like a very tiny like thumbnail like is the best for me, like this. It's so weird, as much as I love like big art, but if I could almost like blow up the tiny thumbnail, because the expression, the rawness, like I feel like is in its purest form there. And if as much as you can try to capture of the original essence of that, I think the better the end result will be. And it shows. Like, his hand lettering is amazing. It's so good. You know, once again, he said, you know, he's not the best letterer, but he had to try to come up with a style that he liked that wouldn't be distracting as too bad. And I love that. You know what I mean? Undeniably, like, a great comic book, right? And purely born out of, like, his, like, love for comics and desire to want to make a comic book from the ground up. And I mean, it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. He's super talented. He has a huge passion and love for the craft, and it shows. And like, this is such an amazing book. I hope that people had, and like, I can't imagine like any, you know, I know so many indie cartoonists and so many self-published artists that would just, like, this would be such a great read for you, even if you know, like I said, whether it talks you into it or talks you out of it, like, it is inspiring and that much of a, like, game changer in that regard, in my opinion. If the answer is Image publishing this to reach a broader audience, then I think this definitely, like, this needs to be at, you know, every bookshelf and every great bookstore in America needs to carry this book. And hopefully, I don't know if this is gonna, hopefully he will do another printing if the demand is out there, and I hope the demand is out there, because like I said, it is such a great and valuable piece of you know, instructional how to self-publish, do it yourself, from creating the actual book to distributing to the, you know, marketing and everything, the importance of that. And I think that's great, because, you know, you need to know everything. Like, you really do need to be a one-man show, and you need to be a businessman. How far you want to take it. But there's other avenues too, you know what I mean? Like I said, this is just one way to go, and a very successful one. So it's admirable to see him, and he still struggles with, you know, like the ups and downs and like the balancing of doing it himself and the getting outside publishing help. So, you know, like I said, there's so many ways to do it. this is a great guide for you. And if you can get your hands on it somehow, I highly recommend it if you're a indie publisher or an indie comics creator and that's your thing. So definitely an interesting read otherwise as well, with some fascinating behind the scenes looks if you also like the how-tos and process of things like that, which I really enjoy. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and I will bring you more soon.